The show begins with Donnie at the police station filing a report about a woman who'd been stalking him. She frequently visits his workplace and bombards him with emails. The police officer doesn't perceive the woman as a threat, but Donnie's concerned because he believes she needs assistance, particularly because she'd been pursuing him for half a year. A flashback reveals Donnie's first encounter with his stalker while he was working as a bartender in London. Upon seeing her, he felt a wave of sympathy, and he offered her a cup of tea, which she declined, stating that she couldn't afford it. So he decided to give it to her on the house, and she introduced herself as Martha, a lawyer who claimed to own a law firm amongst other things. However, Donnie was puzzled as to why she couldn't afford a cup of tea. Donnie shares his story of moving to London with the aspiration of becoming a comedian. However, after failing to achieve his dream, he now resides rent-free with his ex-girlfriend's mother. Martha, his stalker, would visit him daily, each time sporting a new hairstyle and makeup, and would stay for the duration of his shift. She would engage in lengthy monologues about the people in her life, and Donnie confesses that he enjoyed her company as she was the only one who paid him any attention. Although Donnie would occasionally compliment Martha, he refrained from giving her his phone number. Subsequently, he began receiving approximately 80 emails per day, many of which contained spelling mistakes, even on simple words. Donnie declined Martha's invitation for a birthday picnic, believing it to be a romantic gesture, and opted for a coffee outing instead. Martha interpreted this as a date and inquired if he was serious about her, and he affirmed, but only as a friend. Intrigued by her interest in him, he decided to follow her back to her apartment, which he found to be in a state of disarray. Martha attended his stand-up show and was the sole audience member who found his jokes amusing. Her infectious laughter motivated him to craft humorous jokes, leading to a successful performance. That night, she professed her love for him and tenderly touched his face. Subsequently, she sent him a Facebook friend request, and upon checking her profile, he discovered numerous photoshopped images of her alongside political figures. He even found a picture of himself with a caption that read, "I met someone today, my very own baby reindeer to have and to hold." He conducted a Google search on her and found out that she was indeed a lawyer, but she had been disbarred following a striking conviction. She had previously served time in prison for stalking her former boss, from whom she was fired for inappropriate behavior, including loitering outside his house. Donnie was understandably taken aback by these revelations, but he still accepted her Facebook friend request. Donnie was in disbelief that he had accepted Martha's friend request on Facebook, and he attempted to unfriend her multiple times, but always found himself hesitating. He was under the impression that Martha was unwell and misunderstood. She then began to leave comments on all his photos, some dating back to when he first created the account. She then expressed to him that their coffee outing was a romantic date and inquired if they were officially a couple. She also wanted to know if there was another person in his life. Donnie chose to ignore her and logged out of his account, and he then went on his 6th date with Terry, during which they engaged in conversations about their lives. Donnie then shares that he met Terry through a trans dating website where he used the alias Tony and took measures to conceal his identity. He never anticipated falling in love, but Terry's brilliance, fierceness, and wit captivated him a lot. At a later time, Martha visited Donnie at his workplace and inquired about who he was messaging and if it was Kelly. Donnie reassured her that Kelly was merely an old friend, and Martha was under the impression that Donnie was unattached. That night, Donnie was kept awake by the fear of Martha discovering his relationship with Terry, leading him to make a promise to keep the two women separate. He shared Martha's messages with Terry, who believed Martha was evidently unwell. Terry questioned why Martha referred to him as Donnie and why he hadn't reported her actions, and Donnie assured her that he would handle the situation, and Terry declared that if he didn't, she would go to Camden to confront Martha herself. Martha reprimanded Donnie for arriving late at the pub, and he served her a Coke and billed her for it, which led her to break down in tears. Donnie consoled her and brought up the age difference between them, mentioning his future plans for children. Martha responded with a remark about how the world only takes from an individual before departing. That evening, Martha bombarded Donnie's account with numerous emails, each one detailing aspects of menstruation, tampons, and blood clots, thereby emphasizing her infertility. Martha would make her presence known at the pub every morning, following Donnie around the bar and carelessly discussing their shared future. She had secured tickets on his semi-final performance at the comedy club, and Donnie requested Gino to prohibit Martha from entering, but Gino declined, believing that Donnie was insignificant without her. Jason even took Donnie's phone and texted Martha asking for sex, pretending to be Donnie, thinking she would find it funny and not take it seriously. Donnie then contacted Jason to inquire about rescheduling his semi-final to a different date. Subsequently, he met Terry at the club and they enjoyed a dance together, and Terry conducted an online search on Martha and discovered her previous incarnation, and she deduced that Donnie was maintaining his connection with Martha due to the benefits that she provided him. That night, Donnie returned with Terry, and Terry observed that his hands were not as rough as one would expect from a builder. She then requested a passionate kiss from him, but he disembarked from the subway before he could respond. He then discovered Martha awaiting his arrival. She labeled him as dirty due to her lack of certain experiences, but hinted at the possibility of making exceptions for him, and she stated that men who didn't find her attractive were either visually impaired or homosexuals. She pleaded with him to stop distancing himself from her and proposed to assist him with the man who had caused him harm. Donnie chose to leave, but she pursued him, eventually cornering him against a wall and making physical contact. Martha was elated, believing that she was carding his heart to rapes. Following the unsettling incident on the street, a scared Donnie retreated to his home, blocked Martha on Facebook, and took a break from his job at the pub. His flatmate Liz, who's also his ex-girlfriend's mother, permitted him to invite people over and offered him some comfort. Later, he visited Terry with the intention of apologizing and revealing the truth about his identity and profession. She listened to him briefly before asking him to leave her house. While on the bus, he updated his job title to comedian on his dating profile, and Liz introduced him to her cooking group, where Martha was also present, introducing herself as Sheila, a lawyer. Donnie recounts that upon his arrival in London, he and his ex-girlfriend Kelly moved into her mother's house as they sought to establish a life together. Eventually, Kelly moved out independently, and after Liz's son passed away, Donnie continued to live with her and even began wearing her late son's jacket. When Kelly learned of his decision to stay, she allowed it on the condition that he never brought any trouble to her mother's doorstep. Martha spent that evening conversing with Liz, and despite Donnie's insistence for her to leave, Liz invited Martha to stay. Donnie demanded that she leave and avoid the house, but she refused until he threatened to call the police. Upon returning to his room, he discovered a picture of her in her underwear, and Donnie spent the night in a state of panic, knowing that Martha was aware of where he lived. The following day, he resolved to confront her, but she was absent, and instead she awaited him at the bus stop situated in front of his residence. Kelly paid a visit to the house and urged him to handle the Martha issue. Martha maintained her presence in front of his house daily, and she would depart early in the morning, and she would remain there until late at night. She never approached him or returned to the house. As the weather turned chilly, she would gaze at the house for extended periods, prompting Donnie to check on her and drive her home that night. He then prepared a cup of tea for her and spent some time with her, and he pleaded with her to grant him some space and began to cry. He informed her that he was ending their relationship, which caused her to cry as well. He requested her to respect the boundaries of their breakup before departing, and the following day, Martha was absent from the bus stop, which allowed Donnie to breathe easier. He then attended his semi-finals, and Terry attended the show with the intention of achieving closure by witnessing his failure in front of a large crowd. He succeeded in making the audience laugh, but Martha began to sing and announced that she missed him. She informed everyone that she was his ex-girlfriend, and Donnie revealed to the audience that she was his stalker, which really infuriated her. She began yelling and demanding an apology, and she accused him of lurking around her house at night and looking through her windows. Security then escorted her out, and his comedy gig ended in chaos. Terry, being a therapist, expressed a desire to meet Martha, thinking she might be able to reach her. They quickly left when Martha came looking for Donnie and headed straight to the pub, and they shared a drink and engaged in conversation. Terry noticed that he had updated his profile on the website, and decided to give him another chance. Martha arrived and insulted Terry, calling her very derogatory names. This prompted Terry to reveal that she was on a date with Donnie and ordered Martha to back off. Martha then became aggressive, pushing Terry and assaulting her while making more derogatory comments about her appearance. Donnie stepped in and lost his temper, and he threatened Martha, telling her that he would harm her if she didn't stay away from him. He then checked on Terry, who was injured, and apparently she was bleeding. After 6 months of Martha stalking him, he decided to report it to the police, but he didn't mention any of her violent acts or her inappropriate touching, as he only wanted her to get some help. But when the officer asked him why he took so long to report it, that's when all the memories came flooding back. 5 years earlier, Donnie had gone to Edinburgh Festival, a festival he'd always wanted to go to, where he could participate with his show on the street and maybe get lucky and get discovered. He walked into the venue where he would be performing in a rundown bar, but to him, this was everything he had wanted at the time. He was shocked when he saw the tiny setup, and it must be a mistake, but when he asked the bartender, he realized that this would be all he was getting, an uninterested audience. He starts his show to a pissed off audience, who get up and leave as soon as he starts talking. He then gets behind the tiny box and starts changing into his costume, but still, nobody was interested at all. He couldn't get any attention, and he even stopped handing out flyers. As the days went by, with every show, he started losing his confidence with his talent, wondering if it was a mistake. But then, the bartender gave him a card, a VIP card, to go to an exclusive bar. That night, Donnie went to the bar and tried to talk to some people, and he asked them to come to his show, but it was just awkward until he met his hero, Darian O'Connor. Darian is the writer of his favorite show, Cottonmouth. He got very excited and couldn't stop himself from talking non-stop, trying to kiss up to his favorite writer. Donnie continued to do his show, and surprisingly, Darian had shown up, and to everyone's surprise, Donnie put on a great show, and Darian loved it. Donnie even made a little bit of money that day, and Darian then offers to meet him to have a chat, and later on they got together to work on his show, making it better than it's ever been. And soon enough, the bar was packed with people who just came to see Donnie. But then things started changing with the way Darian acted around Donnie. First, he took him to the bathroom and made him do drugs, with the promise of making him a scriptwriter for the big boys. Then out of the blue, Darian went back to London and left Donnie to do his shows alone, and Donnie then went to acting school, where they made him do crazy things that didn't really have anything to do with acting. But he missed Darian. The confidence that he gave him while performing was very infectious, and no matter how many texts he sent, Darian never wrote back. But one day, Donnie got a call from Darian, and he picks it up and Darian offers him a writing job and he accepts. Later on, Donnie goes to Darian's apartment and gets a big hug from him, and they sit down and start working immediately. But Darian keeps shutting down his ideas, but pretty quick, Darian offers him drugs and Donnie accepts, not wanting to be rude. But then things started getting more and more weirder with Darian, and that's when he offers Donnie other drugs that would get him a lot higher than he's ever been, without knowing the real sinister plan that awaits Donnie, and unfortunately, Donnie just accepts. The episode concludes as Donnie accepts the drugs, falling for Darian's cunning persuasion. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel, and also leave me a comment below with suggestions on what movie or series we should recap next.